Hola, buenos días, soy Nico.
We supposed to be a sisterhood, and I don't feel a sisterhood right now.
And today we're here to finish off another wonderful week's worth of content. Well, yes, Nico, the shoulders are out because it's hot outside and the AC is at 66. Nico, I found the right temperature. But before we get distracted, if you like this kind of content, make sure to follow me on Patreon at patreon.com/Nicosaesthetics for more exclusive videos, weekly live streams, and be a part of the live streams where we have multifaceted conversations with a varied panel depending on the week. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in. And this week's Patreon exclusive is basically going over why so many people, including myself, are leaving Onlyfans. Nico! Yes, next year on my birthday when I turn 30, I'm going to be retiring from OnlyFans. I'm still debating on whether I'm going to keep the page up, seeing as how I put a lot of effort and finances into my movies. If you watch my movies, you know I put like a budget behind it, because anything with my name attached to it, gonna have a budget. But yeah, I go more into detail about it on that video, but it's just something that I know isn't forever, and it's not something that I wanted to be forever, if that makes sense. I wanted to do like a Tiger Tyson kind of thing where I come into the industry, I do my thing, I make my money, then I dip. So I'm going to start prioritizing my YouTube a lot more. Seeing as how YouTube covers all of my finances, there's not a critical point of whether I should or shouldn't continue with OnlyFans. It's just excess and saving and investing and stuff like that. But now that we've gotten out of the way, last video's comment, which was going over why so many gay men are obsessed with turning straight men, and someone eloquently put, a lot of gay men view themselves as a prize, and they take pride and or their ego is stroked if they could possibly turn someone who isn't actually normally interested in them. And I agree. A lot of gay boys are ego focused. Nico, I'm not gonna pretend. But now that we've gotten out of the way, let's get on to the actual topic. Today we're going to be talking about sugar daddies versus OnlyFans. Nico, what do you mean? I wanted to have a conversation on the social stigma surrounding OnlyFans, yet doing something strange for a little change is pretty normalized. Nico, no it's not. Listen. After I moved to New York City, and even when I went back to visit Houston, I figured out that so many people that I knew either had sugar daddies, were escorting, etc. So we're going to go through the list of options, and we're going to have a conversation on why is OnlyFans the one that is so looked down upon. And this actually began because a performer who has retired named Kelz has appeared on the blogs once again, because he was cited at, I believe, a baseball game with two elderly white men. One of them is actually the owner of BlackboyAddictions, so it's not like it's just a random white man. But a lot of the blogs began to run with the story that he was there with his sugar daddies. And a lot of the comments began to insult him and drag him, basically saying that, oh wow, even with two sugar daddies, you're sitting in the nosebleed seats. Meanwhile, they're at home tweeting. Beyond me. But when I went into the actual comments of the TikTok, he was basically saying, oh, I'm not about to be a part of BlackboyAddictions. I'm actually still retired. We're all just hanging out. So this was never confirmed to be his sugar daddies. It was just a bunch of malicious gay that continued to follow him. But I thought it was interesting because a lot of the comments weren't even necessarily upset that he had sugar daddies, but because they perceived it as him not getting enough money out of them. And this is a conversation that has come up a lot since I've moved to New York. And I wanted to go step by step. So I actually have my MacBook right here so I don't forget my talking points. You may see me put my reading glasses back on whenever I have to look at them. But yes, first we're going to go through sugar daddies. Nico, what is a sugar daddy? Essentially, a sugar daddy is somebody that pays you for your time consistently. It does not always have to be super happy adult fun time, but could be companionship, because a lot of people, when they get older, they don't always want to get physical. They could just want to spend time with you. And if you have an entertaining enough personality, vibrant enough energy, and or beautiful enough to just stare at, some people will offer that option. And personally, I've never had a sugar daddy, and this isn't to like shade anyone that does. It's just I've always been the kind of person I prefer to make my own money so that someone can't tell me what I can and cannot do. A lot of sugar daddies come with stipulations, seeing as how they are the ones funding your lifestyle. Some might take it as a financial mentorship. Nico, what do you mean? A financial mentorship is essentially when an older party is your sugar daddy. Sometimes there is sugar involved, but most of the time it's them giving back to the community, trying to essentially lift you up to a place where you will have a better standing in your career goals. Because I've even had situations where I was in Atlanta, I was having a small conversation with someone at a party, and he was basically saying, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, "Oh, I do YouTube." He was like, "Oh, that's so interesting. Since you live in New York City, you should apply for this organization. I have a friend there who is actually taking in a lot of gay people and putting them in positions of power within the system. But the thing is, the system is still slightly homophobic, so they are all DL, incognito, but they all know each other's tea and look out for each other while making sure that they're all securing the bag." So that is more of like an official business relationship. Sometimes it can still have sexual ties, though it's not normally done that way, seeing as how it's usually connected from boss to employee to da-da-da-da-da, so it gets messy. And I remember my first instance of someone throwing, "Why don't you have a sugar daddy?" in my face. And Nico, what do you mean by that? It was basically someone I began to go on dates with before I started doing OnlyFans, and when I actually moved to New York City, he lived here, so we continued going on dates. Though in that meantime, I had started doing OnlyFans, but he had never asked what I did for a living. Nico, what do you mean? So this person was a narcissist. He's one of those people that basically talks about himself, only about himself, and when you try to speak about yourself, he talks over you. So he and I, our connection wasn't even like full on conversation, kiki. I'd basically sit there, he'd talk at me, he'd call me pretty, we eat dinner, and we'd have sex. Point is, one time I cancel dinner because I'm like, okay, well, I don't really feel like traveling to Washington Heights tonight. I'm gonna hit you up later. And he went to a party and somebody told him, "Oh, that's that Nicosaesthetics." So he came back to me. And once again, I didn't have any issue with him being upset because it was a change in my life. Even if I saw this man maybe once every 2 months and we didn't really talk, it is something I could have brought up if he had asked about it. But he basically said, "Why couldn't you just get a sugar daddy? Why did you do OnlyFans?" And it confused me, especially in the moment, because I'm like, you would rather I sleep with someone who I'm not attracted to, a random man that is offering to finance my life, instead of me doing what all gay people do, which is have super happy adult fun time, unless you're asexual, and simply putting up my tripod, because that's what my OnlyFans collaborations are. It's not like a situation where I'm backed into a wall and forced to work with someone I'm not attracted to. If I put out a film, I wanted to be there. So I'm like, you would prefer me be on someone's purse string, latched to them, not able to make my own movements, but still be able to save face in public. Because I know when I moved out here, I also started trying to flirt with somebody. We started talking and he had to tell me immediately. I mean, he didn't have to tell me, but I did appreciate it. He told me, "Hey, if you're serious about being involved with me, I am an escort." Nico, what is an escort? So it is essentially slinging pipe cash. It's not a sugar daddy scenario, but you can have repeat customers. It's essentially the age-old profession of, selling. So I personally didn't mind, seeing as how I do OnlyFans. I don't escort, I never have. It's out of my personal comfort zones. Sleeping with someone I'm not interested in for money. But with OnlyFans, I have slept with strangers, people I didn't really know beyond their medical history. So I can't judge somebody for sleeping with someone protected for money. So I remember when that conversation came up, he felt like a weight was lifted off of his shoulders. Meanwhile, there was still like hesitation with me because I was more vocal and public about what I was doing. And once again, he never like shamed me for it, but there is still a stigma that comes with sex work and acknowledging that you do it proudly. Unfortunately, though, we are trying to change it, seeing as how the government is going. I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon. But my final example is that I remember when I was courting someone I had met at multiple parties. We were going on dates. We were, cuddled up, watching movies, eating dinner. But I remember, I think it was 4 dates in, after we already established we liked each other, that the vibe was good, that we were actually meshing, he brought up the conversation of, I can't do this. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I can't do this because you're expecting me to be okay with you doing OnlyFans when that's not necessarily what I want. And once again, I don't judge anybody for putting up that boundary by saying, I will not date a super happy adult fun time performer, because I feel the same way about a cop. I will not date a cop. Nico, what do you mean? This isn't even about social justice. It's just statistically, cops are, abusive. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with that. So I wasn't necessarily upset that he was not able to date a super happy adult fun time performer, because once again, everybody has their boundaries. I was more so upset that we had conversations about it. He said he was interested in learning more about it and that he was perfectly fine with it. But after about 5 dates, me consistently investing time and energy, he then retracted it by saying, well, I just can't do it. So that bothered me a tad bit. But once again, I've seen this person at sex parties. I've seen this person at circuit parties getting, roughed up a bit against the wall. Point is, they do public super happy adult fun time. They are seen within gay spaces with notable faces that always recognize you because you're always in the same place. But there's shame attached to what I do because I profit off of it in the mainstream, but he does it for free in the shadows. So it's an interesting dynamic that I've seen with the different layers of sex work, because once again, sex work is an umbrella that encompasses all of these career paths, even go-go boys, strippers, Instagram models, it all encompasses it. So it's interesting to see how differently people perceive each branch. But I definitely want to hear your opinions down below. How do you feel about the different categories of sex work and how they're treated in public? Would you ever be okay with your partner being an OnlyFans performer? Would you prefer that they have a sugar daddy? Or would you prefer that they do escorting so that it's anonymous people, they get their money and then they go about their day? Or would you like the final option of, it's just too much visibility and too much access for me to personally accept? Because a lot of people are okay with open relationships. A lot of people are not. But as we continue to move forward in society and non-monogamous relationships become more normalized and talked about, and we educate ourselves on how to control our possessiveness and or jealousy, it's going to be an interesting development. And I want to hear your opinions down below. So I hope I've been coherent, and I'll see you guys next time. Boop. And now for a brief yet sincere shout out to this week's Third Eye Tier subscribers, Chance and Beerlicious. Your continued support is greatly appreciated, and thank you once again to everyone who supports the channel. And this week's Slashing discussion will be whether you would prefer having a sugar daddy or doing OnlyFans. Would you prefer to have your own money or to keep it low key and just fund your lifestyle with someone else's? If that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in. Insult him and drag him, basically began to insult him and drag him basically